Good morning, everyone, and hello, and welcome to another edition of the Walters Wanderings Travel Podcast. My name is Scott Walters, and today I'm going to have a special guest. And to promote him and what he does, I'm going to give you an opportunity to save some money on your next vacation to the great state of Vermont. If you book a 4 night stay in Vermont, and I have some unbelievable locations you can stay at throughout this Green Mountain State, I'll send you $50 in a gift card to your favorite establishment. So, no matter what establishment you want to use, maybe even an establishment that's based in Vermont, like Ben and Jerry's or Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, no worries, we'll get you covered. Again, 4 nights in Vermont, and you'll get that as a freebie from me. So today on the podcast, I have a good friend of mine from the Wayback Machine. He and I went to college together. We admit to that. We won't admit to anything we did in college together. We'll keep that a secret. But he's a two-time New England Emmy Award winner. He's been ferreting out stories and dishing them out for over 30 years in northern Vermont and throughout the whole Green Mountain State and surrounding areas. His name is Joe Carroll. Joe, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Scott, for having me. This is a treat.
It is, and I guess you have done a lot of news stories, and some have taken you far afield. Most of your coverage obviously is in Vermont, and that's great because local news is kind of a weird thing sometimes. But the Vermont market is a lot different from, say, New York or Chicago.
Sure.
So I guess I want to start with the series that you have and you still run called the Super Seniors. I've seen a lot of them, through streaming and all of that. And I find it to be quite fascinating. How do you find these people who still, kick butt and take no prisoners?
Yeah, so it's actually timing is really good here, Scott, because this month is the 10th anniversary of Super Seniors. So I've been doing this, I can't believe it, for 10 years, profiling not just active seniors, but people who have a story to tell. Last night, I did a piece on a guy named Gene Tessier, who's he's only 72. I've done from 70 to 106 profiling people. And he was what was called a tunnel rat in Vietnam. Those are the guys that were small in size, but big courage to go into these tunnels and look for the enemy with just a rifle and a gun. So how did I find out about that as your question? It was emails mostly. Two people had emailed me about Gene in the past. And one of his deals is he came back from the war changed. He was much more had empathy for people. He saw so much death that he became a leader in the community. And every year he puts up Christmas tree lights for the kids. So I got him last night, or there last night, a couple days ago, turning him on as a sneak peek for me. He'll do it at a day after Veterans Day, which is, I think, pretty appropriate. How I get these stories in general is through emails. And at first, it was very difficult for me to get people to say yes because they had no idea what I was doing. You're trying to do what again? And now it's not a problem. I have a notebook full of suggestions.
There you go. Well, that's excellent. Now, you've gone to all four corners of the state of Vermont. What was the most interesting location for one of these Super Senior shoots?
Ooh, that's it's like trying to pick your favorite child, right? I have to say one of the most memorable would be I did on my Father's Day, and he's since passed, but he was quite the golfer, and I went on the golf course with him. I never could beat him at golf, and I didn't at that day either. And it was just one of those like Father Day touching stories. I think got a lot of good response, and we just shot a round of golf. I shoot these segments too, so it makes it a little difficult to start the camera, stop the camera. I use GoPros and such, but There's that one. You're right. I've been to Canaan. You know where Canaan is,
Yes,
which
that's
is
way up in
yep,
the northeast part of the state, near more moose than people, I think, you know.
exact. It's Essex County, and I think you're right on that. I have a map at work, and it has a state of Vermont map, and it looks like measles all over the state where locations I've been to, and I've hit every county. I'm trying to get to every town, but I don't know if that's going to be possible.
Well, you'll be better than most politicians if you do. So
Yeah.
now, other stories besides the seniors, you obviously, and again, I think for a lot of people, you know, when they see big market television, you know, the news crew has like 3 or 4 people in the van. There's a reporter, there's an audio person, there's a video person, and there may be a driver producer in one of
Yeah.
these news vans. But where you are, it's certainly not that way. So describe some of the differences in news gathering where you are versus some of these big cities.
Well, I think what you said may be a little dated on the size of what they have for crews now.
Uh-oh.
Crew used to be where the local WNBCs and such would have the sound man, sound person, photographer, producer, and so forth, and reporter. You don't really see that anymore. You'll even in bigger markets in Washington, you're seeing a lot more MMJs, multimedia journalists, who are out there alone covering these stories. So we have a. I'm the chief photographer, and there's 4 other photographers, camera people, whatever you want to call us, because we have 2 females. And we used to have 11. So the deal is it's a lot cheaper to hire someone out of college, and have one person doing it. You're seeing it all in the major markets. The networks are still probably not like that.
So now, in your time of news gathering and being in the television, and what's the biggest change as far as technology goes? I mean, there's been so many that again, it might be like choosing between children, but what do you find to be and which is the best, which is the most forward thinking and positive change, and which is the negative one, biggest negative one?
That's a good question. Well, talk about the changes first. I've been at the station 36 years and 2 months. I just did the math. And when we first started, the 6 o'clock news was the bread and butter premium show. Still is for the most part, but there was nothing really. You had the 11, maybe you had a morning show. Now it's much more of a news 24 cycle where we have from 4 to 6 p.m., 11 p.m., and then we start at 4 a.m. till 7. That's a lot of coverage. And technology has made it easier in some ways to definitely to go live. We used to have a big satellite truck, which we were the first station in northern New England to have one. It was quite the rig. It's no longer in use. We have cell boxes, kind of what we're doing now, but on steroids. It's a box about, I guess my dimensions can't be done here in the box, but anyways, it's you could put it on your shoulder. It's a cell phone with attitude. Got 6 SIMs cards in it. So it's constantly looking for a signal, and you can go live almost instantly if you have a good cell service. So that's changed. You don't have to have cables going into a building. The use of what we're doing now, cell phones are incredible quality that is being used. The first time that technology, maybe this answers your question, Tropical Storm Irene, you probably remember that.
I remember that. Really, it really devastated Vermont, and people don't, think that a tropical storm in Vermont would mix, and they obviously they don't in this case.
They, Yeah, it was bad. 5 people died. I think over $1 billion worth of damage, because all the streams and so forth got soaked and went down to the rivers and washed away mini roads. And that kind of segues in what I'm trying to say is, we couldn't get to these locations without the help of citizen journalists, if you will, sending us videos of water barrier or locations perhaps we couldn't get to. So that was the first major use, I think, of us using still pictures, videos from their phone. It was about 10 years ago. So there's an example where technology has helped us out.
Well, I can tell you what I do remember from the way back machine. When I went to college in Vermont, I would watch the Channel 3 news because it was the strongest signal. Because where I lived at the time, there wasn't any cable. Some of the reporters actually shot on film, not even video. So, I
Right.
mean, and that's 1980, 81, 82, which, is, yeah, it's 40 plus years ago, but it's still like, it's still not such ancient history like daguerreotype photography, so it has come a long way. There's no doubt.
It's true, but if you talk to a 20-year-old who thinks 1981 is, Civil War,
Right, the
right?
Flintstones. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I certainly understand. So,
Um, so say, to answer your question, I came after film, but we were not unusual for a TV station to have film in the early 80s. In fact, I would say our station was the first station to go with digital cameras in the country, which were the chips inside, as opposed to the Plumicon tubes. If you remember, you had a
right.
video camera, and if you pointed those at the sun or you put it down hard, it would jar the 3 tubes in there and so forth. So that was quite the change. So
But that's all very interesting. Now, outside of Vermont, give us a story or two that you really remember, and maybe some of the logistics that are involved in covering a story for a small television station in a very big or important place.
so outside of Vermont, we travel quite a bit, I think, for a station. One I think you'll find interesting is, I've been to Iowa 3 times for work. Twice for I love Iowa. The people are wonderful. I was in Des Moines for the caucus, and I was at the Howard Dean screen. If you remember right?
I
That
remember that Howard Dean scream. It's all because and it's funny that was a technological issue because they had a microphone that picked up something different than if it was a different type of microphone.
Yeah, it didn't pick up. This is what I hear. So I'm there. It was in West Des Moines at a well-known country and western venue. Kind of, I don't know how to. There's a place in Vermont. It used to be called Hunts. I don't know if you remember that. It was in Burlington. So big country and western place. The Dean people had booked that, and if you remember right, Howard was the governor at Vermont at the time, was the leader. So all the, the national media was there. I was there with Anson Tebbetts, who's now the Secretary of Agriculture for Vermont, and we came in, we set up, got the scream. I didn't think it was unusual. I thought his movements and his arms were kind of strange, and he puts on the hat. I was like, oh, he's tired, whatever. We got it on the bus to go to New Hampshire. It was a chartered. We took the plane to New Hampshire. It was a charter plane. Joan Jett's there on the plane because she was a big Howard Dean supporter. So all the suits and so forth are in there, and there's Joan Jett in her leather. We fly to New Hampshire, the former Pease Air Force Base, I believe, outside of Manchester. and she starts playing "I Love Rock and Roll." Anson and I had been up for 30 hours. We were exhausted, but we were covering this, and we finished. We knew Howard did poorly. Everybody did. I think he came in third place. And we're driving up, listening to WBZ radio. As you're probably aware, WBZ is the premier station in Boston, or was, for talk radio.
Right.
Playing the Howard Dean screen over and over. I'm like, wow, this is taking off. And then CNN is going, and that became the news story for, I think, 3 days. So that's probably one of the most unusual stories I've been on. I've been up to Toronto for the Pope when he came to the youth conference up there. A lot of walking with a lot of big gear.
So, oh yeah, I understand that. You go to an event like that, you're sort of you become part of the pilgrimage, and always part of pilgrimages is lots of walking and Fitbit busting before there was a Fitbit. I get it.
Yeah, it was a lot of walking. I think a lot of the people don't understand how much stuff is downtime, but producing and getting ready for live shots and so forth there is before you see it on the TV for your minute and a half or 2 minutes of what you see.
No, I understand that. Now, let's turn away from all the work stuff and talk about some of your personal travel. You've done some intrepid tripping, and I've been able to follow you on your personal Facebook page. You recently went out to the northwest part of the country and did a lot of driving and a lot of sightseeing and stuff. And I know you've been to Europe more than once. Give us an idea of one of your memorable trips and what you take from doing personal travel and how it may apply to you in your journalism type career.
I was looking at where I've been and writing it down, and it's mostly Europe. You're right. I've been to China twice, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Australia. Not all in the same time, but different times through the years. And I said to myself a few years ago that I'm going to travel every year until I can't travel anymore, as we get older. Not envisioning that the world would get sick, right?
Exactly.
COVID happened. I was in Germany a couple of years ago, 4 months before COVID. Not a care in the world. Who would have known, right? It was right after the Oktoberfest. And I'm like, everyone experiences their own COVID story, right? In lockdowns and so forth. So you're right. I did travel to the Northwest. I said to myself, I need to go somewhere because I'm not getting any younger and the world seemed to be getting a little better. So I did. I'm trying to get in my 50 states. I'm up to 43. So.
Well, what are some of the ones that are missing?
North Dakota, shocker. Nebraska, Utah, Arkansas, and Alaska and Hawaii.
Well, those are actually, they're not as hard to get to as you think, for sure.
Right.
And there's certainly plenty to see in all those places. So no doubt, when you're ready to knock some of those off, let me know. I'll take care of you.
You got a deal for me.
I'll take care of you. I'll get you to the Mighty 5 national parks out in Utah, and you'll be well pleased. You'll do a lot of walking, but you'll be well pleased.
Right. Everyone says you have to go to Utah for the national parks.
But they are very impressive. Everybody I've sent has really enjoyed it. So, is there anything you want to add about what you do, where we can find you on social media and so forth, so that people can hone in and see some of those super senior moments and other things you do?
Sure. You could go to WCAX.com and go to our website, and there's the hamburger, 3 lines. That's what we call it, I guess. And hit that, and you'll see a bunch of super seniors that I've done. So for people who are outside of Vermont, Google CBS Vermont, and our website will come up. And just go to the left side of the screen and scroll down, and you'll see Super Seniors. And you asked about my travels and so forth, and I always have a camera with me because I just can't get enough of taking pictures or videos now too of what I see. I'm looking to do the best picture ever, but I think it's going to be a difficult thing to do. So, but I hope to travel in the springtime or in the fall somewhere.
Well, there's certainly plenty of opportunity now, and things. It's the only constant in this world is change, and we've certainly found that out. And no doubt, in what you do, you certainly have seen a lot, and there's so much more to see. So I appreciate it, and thanks for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it, Joe.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Just before we go, let you know if you book a trip to Vermont, 4 nights or more, and I've got some unbelievable locations, including the Von Trapp Family Lodge in Stowe, the Equinox Resort in Manchester, the Rabbit Hill Inn in North Waterford, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of places that are great to go to. You'll get $50 and a gift card to your favorite establishment, wherever that might be. This has been the Walters Wandering Travel Podcast. I thank you so much. We'll have another edition soon.